Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome to today's video. I'm excited because today's video is a follow-up to my most recent video of visiting bookstores in Austin. I went to the store called Book People and they had an entire wall full of blind date with books. So I told my boyfriend to pick one out and he did. He chose this fiction book that says this book likes horror and fantasy thrillers, mystery and magical realism, trauma, identity, and memory. And I'm super excited. So I thought it'd be fun to do a reading vlog of me opening this book, figuring out which book it is, and then reading this book. So let's open this book and see what it is. Okay, so we have Garden of Earthly Bodies by Sally Oliver. I've actually never heard of this book, which I'm so thankful of because I was very worried that he might have picked a book that I already read. But given that it was a fiction that had horror elements to it, I really didn't think I had read this. So I'm super happy with this. I cannot wait to read this. I have no idea what this is about. So the back of the book says, months after her sister's death, Marianne wakes up to find a growth of thick black hairs along her spine that defy her every attempt to remove them. The hairs, Marianne's doctor tells her, are a reaction to her trauma from the loss of her sister, so she recommends that Marianne visits Need, a new age rehabilitation center offering unorthodox therapies to its patients. Yet something strange is happening to Marianne and the other patients at Need, a metamorphosis of a kind. The hairs on her back continue to grow and the past starts to entangle itself with the present, the borders of her consciousness threatening to disintegrate. As Marianne's obsessive memories of her sister and their splintered family threaten to overwhelm her, Need offers her a release from this cycle of memory and pain, but only at a terrible price. Haunting, lyrical, and introspective, Garden of Earthly Bodies is a startlingly accomplished and original debut about the bond between two sisters, love and its limits, and our inability to ever truly know the minds of others. This sounds so interesting. I am very excited to read this. I haven't heard nothing about it, and I kind of want to look it up on Goodreads now to see how it's rated, but I also don't want that to impact my review of it. So I do think I'm going to wait until after to kind of like in-depthly look at this. But I also have to mark it as currently reading on. I might have my boyfriend do it. I'm going to try and not look at the reviews of this because I really do want to go into this one as blind as possible. But I'm super excited to get to this one. I'm so happy with this pick. I'm so glad it was a book that I have not read. And let's get to reading this because I think this is going to be so much fun. Hey guys, I am back with a little bit of an update. I am about like 80 pages into this book. I'm on chapter 3 at the moment. And so far what I'm getting from the book is that we are going back and forth between present day in Mariana's perspective, everything that she's going through like currently. And then in the other chapters, we're seeing past, which is when Mariana was younger. She had her sister Marie and her parents and everything like that. And we're kind of like, I guess, learning about what happened to Mariana's sister and what led to her dying, because we do know from the back of the book that her sister is dead. So I guess we're leading up to essentially what happened to her sister. So far, this is really interesting. I feel like the story is giving hints of kind of like a creepy, macabre kind of feel. The first chapter opens up with like somebody essentially being kind of like buried alive, which is kind of like creepy and scary, but not like super creepy and scary. But then we also get perspectives of like Mariana. She has very dark thoughts and it's something that she mentions a lot. But yeah, I'm still very early into the book. Like I said, I'm only 80 pages in. The hairs on Mariana's back have just kind of started and she hasn't yet gone to this Need hospital rehabilitation center that is mentioned on the back. So I'm interested to see where this is going to go because so far it's pretty interesting and I'm liking like the subtle creepy factors that we're getting with like the descriptions and stuff like that. Gonna keep reading and I'll be back with some updates. Hey guys, I am back with a little bit of an update. I am about halfway through this book, Gardens of Earthly Bodies, and I will say the pace of this is a bit slow. I thought that it was going to pick up by now, but it's definitely taking a slower pace to kind of like get to the point. Like the back of the book is talking about Marianne's trip to go stay at Need Hospital, and the chapter that I just finished reading is when we're finally there. I do feel like the chapters are very long. I think I'm only like 5 chapters in and I'm on a page 167. So the chapters are long, and because the chapters are long, I feel like the story is just taking a little bit longer to build. I think I mentioned in my last update, the chapters do go from present to past, present to past. So present is Mariana, her sister has already passed and she's dealing with the depression and everything from her sister's death. And in the past timeline, we're getting the story from Mariana's sister Marie's when she was essentially born to essentially what leads up to her death. So we're going back and forth between the past and the present. I do think it's going to pick up now that we are at Need. The story is just told in a way that's meant to elicit like uncomfortable feelings. I would not say that this is scary by any means, just more like mysterious. It's definitely making you feel kind of like weirded out though. And it comes to with like the descriptions that the author uses and like the detail that she puts into some of her descriptions that make it feel that way. I am going to try and finish this book tonight. It is Sunday, so I want to finish this before the new week starts. So we will see, but I will be back with some updates when I either finish this or maybe if something happens and I want to update you. But I will be back. Hey guys, I'm back with the final update. I did finish Garden of Earthly Bodies last night, and I have been thinking about this book since I finished it last night because part of me really wanted to love this book, and it wasn't good. It just wasn't good, and I'm really sad about it. I think what kept me going was the writing. I really did enjoy the way the author wrote certain descriptions. The writing was so descriptive in some parts that it just allowed me to picture what was being, described or talked about in certain scenes. And I really enjoyed that aspect. But the overall story, the plot, and the way the story was written just made no sense. It really did. It really made no sense. And it's really sad. It's really sad that I didn't really like this. And I went into this book blind. So I literally had no idea what this book was about until I opened it from the blind date with a book like wrapping. I have never heard of anybody reading this book, so I didn't have any preconceived notion going into this. And even when I went to mark the book as currently reading on Goodreads, I had my boyfriend do it because I wanted zero influence going into this. I didn't want to know if this was highly rated, lowly rated. I didn't want to know anything about it. I just wanted to go into this with my own opinion. And after I talked to my boyfriend about the book, because I was like, I need to decompress. I need to just put my thoughts out there. He was like, okay, well, what would you rate it? And I think I'm going to settle at a 2.75 for this. And this is why I keep thinking about it, because part of me is like, 2.75 feels like it's low. But when I think about the ending and when I think about my overall feelings, like I even think in my last update, I said that I felt the book was just so slowly paced. And something I had mentioned to my boyfriend, which I still feel very strongly about, is like when you read the back of the book, you're given the impression that the majority of this story is going to take place at Need, the hospital that she goes to for like help, right? We don't even get there until like more than halfway through the book. And then I think while she's there, we're there for a total of like 4 days. If that. You're expecting, or at least I was expecting by the description, a story that was taking place at a hospital where weird stuff was going to happen. And that's just not what we really get. Yes, we have a weird hospital. And yes, obviously things are going to be happening at this hospital. But the majority of this book was essentially building up to get to the hospital. And I feel like we didn't even need that build up. We could have gotten rid of all of the past flashbacks because it really added nothing to the story. Learning about Marianne and Marie's growing up had nothing to do with anything. We had so many descriptions and detail about her parents that in the end really had nothing to do with anything at all. And I just feel like the ending took kind of like this magical element that was not present in any other part of the story, in my opinion. We did not see anything supernatural, I guess, or magical, aside from like, yes, the hairs growing on her back were weird, but I never got like a magical sense from them. I have so many thoughts on this, and the ending was just like, what? That's it? And with the beginning intro, like the prologue from this book led me to believe that this was going to be just like such an interesting read. Like I was super excited. And I feel like the buildup for the ending that we got just wasn't worth it. It had potential. It had so much potential to be so good. And I feel like the author just missed with this one. And unfortunately, I think I am going to be settling on a 2.75. But I don't know. This one, I had such high hopes. And I kind of just wish that the back of the book wasn't so misleading, because the fact that it wasn't until page like 160 something that we finally make it to need, and then for literally the rest of the book to only take place in a span of 4 days, and for it to escalate as quickly as it did, like we did not need the buildup of the first half of the book to get us there. We could have used maybe one chapter that summarized, especially since a lot of the chapters that were focused on the past really emphasized her parents, and her parents literally had nothing to do with this entire story. I don't know. But those are my thoughts. I would really be curious if anyone has read this book, what your thoughts were, because like I said, I haven't heard of anyone reading this book. So I would really be curious if you have read this book, what your thoughts were, because this was something. I still had such a great time with the blind book with a date. This was such a fun little video, and I had a really great time filming it. Unfortunately, it wasn't the best, but it was still a lot of fun. So I might do this again if I ever come across another blind date with a book in a bookstore, because this was a lot of fun. And I really enjoyed reading a book that I literally just had no idea what it was about. So that was fun. And I think it was also kind of interesting that my feelings towards the book lined up pretty much with what the ratings on Goodreads and Storygraph were. So that's interesting. Had I looked up this book prior, I think knowing that it was rated so low, I'm not sure how it would have impacted my reading experience. But the fact that my reading experience literally lined up with it anyway is kind of interesting. That is it for today's video. It is going to be a shorter video, but it was only one book. But I do hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, I would love it if you would like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.